Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to a gray but otherwise fine morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Welcome to another Wednesday morning coffee break chat. I am your host, James Jackson, executive producer, Light Thief Productions. And he, they pronouns. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about Facebook's outage, which includes all of their internet properties, including WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, and other such things, how that affects so many people around the world. We're going to be talking about mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and COVID denial, which is still a thing somehow. And we're going to have special guest Danny Archer from Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater, along with some of our usual guests. I see Kent Darden here in the waiting room, and we'll be talking to him and other folks who are regular guests as they jump on. First, I'll just go into Facebook going down. Um, a lot of commentary has been going around the social media sphere about Facebook going down, and yeah, it's kind of funny and a bit of Schadenfreude to see, Facebook go down and have you know uh, Facebook losing money, and one of the richest people in the world losing money because of a technical glitch. Somebody fat fingered an update, and it took down the whole entirety of Facebook. That is sort of funny. But what a lot of people don't realize is how integral to communications in a lot of the world, um, the the use of Facebook is, and how pervasive it is, and necessary it is for modern telecommunication. Um, in many countries, even though cell phones are relatively ubiquitous, and access to modern technology and modern telecommunications technology is rather ubiquitous, um, we have the situation that the the cell phones and other devices manage to get out into the world faster than the infrastructure to support it. And whereas in the U.S., that infrastructure was partially funded um, by the government. In other countries, the companies, just telecoms companies, just went in and created business models that were different, and need to support their infrastructure development with actual user fees. So in a lot of the world, sending a text message costs you the equivalent of like 25 US cents, which is quite high when you consider in the majority of the world, the average weekly income is somewhere around $3, $3 US per week. So, paying 25 cents to send a text message to your mom might be something you would do, but you're not going to use that as your primary method of communication. Um, in in also in much of the world, per minute rates are still the standard, and prepaying for your service by purchasing it in a card format is still the standard, and it's relatively expensive. Where the service becomes less expensive is usually with something like Facebook or WhatsApp sponsorship. You can use a cell phone with WhatsApp, and many international travelers know this, without even having a data plan. So you can hop on somebody's Wi-Fi. There is a load of land-based Wi-Fi throughout most of the rest of the world, and much of it is free to access. Some of it costs a little bit, but it costs a lot less than cellular access. And so, people will hop on the Wi-Fi, use their WhatsApp to receive calls and voicemails, receive their text messages, and then they're off Wi-Fi again, for 4 or 5 hours, and then they hop back on a Wi-Fi somewhere, and get all the things that they missed in the meantime. WhatsApp is well designed for this service, and there aren't really many applications with that much penetration that have that kind of service. So while there's suggestions that have gone around, well, what if everyone switched to Signal? Well, that would be great if anybody in Mexico knew about Signal. They don't. They know what WhatsApp is, and everybody has their cell phone numbers associated with WhatsApp and use WhatsApp to communicate. So much like we use Twitter or Facebook to get daily updates about things. There are WhatsApp groups, and you'll get added to them and get updates constantly about what's going on with that group. So the loss of WhatsApp for 6, 8 hours is the loss of a telecommunications structure for an entire country, for multiple other countries. And it's a serious matter because you have a loss of the ability for people to communicate and get things done. One example that came across the news this morning was a young woman in an African country who serves the needs of many companies that service children and school teachers directly, or some schools. And she takes her orders over WhatsApp. And that's the only way that the folks that use her services know how to get in touch with her. Unfortunately, she lost, 5 or 6 customers because of the outage. And that is just sort of unacceptable. It's sort of irresponsible for there to be such a necessary use of WhatsApp. So yeah. So we need to take notice of these kinds of things when we're talking about stuff here in the U.S., and worry about how it affects the other majority of the world, not just feel talk about it from our own perspective. Um, so welcome. I want to bring on screen Danny Archer from Smoke and Mirrors Theater. We've gotten him online now, and welcome to the show, Danny. How you doing? Oh,
Yeah,
you're muted. Let me unmute you.
thanks
There we
for having
go.
me on.
No, you're welcome. Tell us a little bit about Smoke and Mirrors Theater. What is it? When is it available, etc.?
All right, Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater is the only magic theater in the Delaware Valley. There's not another magic theater for over 100 miles. We came into existence in August of 2017, and we were rocking and rolling right up until the coronavirus. happened. We then were shut down for almost a year and a half, and we reopened again the very tail end of July. So our website is smokeandmirrorstheater.com, and on the website you can see our shows. So we are basically, it's a custom built theater for live magic performances. What I mean by that is a lot of times when you go to the theater, the audience is down here, the stage is up there. So you're looking up at the stage. And if someone puts something on a table, you can't see the top of that table. Our theater is built the entire opposite way. There is no stage. The stage is the floor. Then each row gets successively higher. By the time, there's only 4 rows, there's only 60 seats to the theater. So by the time you're in the back, the last row, your feet are about 7 feet off the ground. So the theater is built like an amphitheater, and all the seats curve around. So everybody has an unimpeded view of everything. We had one of our performers come in, and he's a card magician. He sits down at the table and does his whole show with a deck of cards. And he says to me, I got to go out to my car and get my screen and projector. I said, what for? He says, well, if they can't see the cards, they can't see my show. I said, before you do that, take a look at the theater. This was the first time he played there. He said, no, I always need it. I said, just take a look first. And he came into the theater and he put a card on the table and went to the back row, the last seat, and said, 4 clubs. I could see the cards. So he didn't need to bring that in. So we give people an experience that they have never had before, because you know, there's no other theater like this and there's no other shows like this. So it's been a labor of love, to say the very least, in creating and building this project. But what we had last week's show. We had a show Friday and Saturday. Both shows generated multiple standing ovations. So we bring in, there's people that have spent their lives perfecting this art form, and they don't have a place to perform. So we've built this venue and created a home for magic in the Philadelphia area.
Awesome. That's awesome. I also want to welcome onto screen Kent Darden. Welcome, Kent. Say hi, introduce yourself, your pronouns, and what it is you do.
Hi, I'm an active filmmaker in the Philadelphia area. I'm currently shooting in pre-production another action film strip with my man James Jackson. You know, I tricked him into doing it. So basically, and I'm open to anything artistic in Philadelphia.
Awesome. So up close magic it's an art form in and of itself. We often have heard the phrase smoke and mirrors just because that's, you know, that's how you refer to both sleight of hand and the original vaudevillian magicians would use literal smoke and mirrors to kind of hide what they were doing, or show something that they wanted to show. What kind of performance schedule do you have, and where do you welcome acts from?
Okay, good question. Right now, we are still coming out of COVID, so we are playing around. We used to do, pre-COVID, we did a show Friday night, Saturday night, and Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, we did a show for a family audience. Our evening shows, while they are not risque, we have an age limit on them. And the reason for our age limit is more the fact that what we don't want is a guy and his girl to go out for dinner, get tickets to the theater, come into the theater, and then realize they're sitting next to an 8-year-old. So we don't want that. So we do have an age limit for our evening shows just to keep that from happening. So right now, we're playing around. Some weeks we're doing Friday, Saturday, and Friday evening at 8 o'clock, Saturday at 7 o'clock, and then the family show at 1 o'clock on Saturday. But some weekends there's no Friday show. Some weeks we're doing a stand-up comedy event. So it's really varied. And where we get our performers from, I would have to say around the world. We bring in not just sleight of hand magicians, we bring in mind readers, mentalists. We have a lot of mentalists. We had Kreskin. You probably might be too young to recognize the name Kreskin, but Kreskin
I am
was,
not.
oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. But Kreskin was a legendary mind reader, and we had Kreskin in. So we literally we've had magicians from Japan, from Canada, all over the US. The one thing I will tell you, we are extremely picky. I get unsolicited, out of every 100 unsolicited people that said, I'm a magician, book my show at your theater, we book one, maybe two out of 100.
How do you
So we're really picky.
Danny, how do you test them?
Well, the easiest way we do is we have them send video, not their sizzle reel, because all magicians have, that little 1.5 thing. It's a cut, it's this and that. I said, nope, send me minimum 20 minutes of you performing your show for a live audience. Right. Then we have a committee that watches these. The committee is made up of a couple of magicians, but a couple of regular people, non-magicians. And then the committee looks, and then the committee says, oh, we love this guy, then we'll pretty much bring him in. If the committee says, no, we don't like this guy, we're not bringing him in.
But you need normal people to see if they're entertained or not, is that it?
Correct. And a lot of times I will value the opinion of the, we call, a lay audience. I'll value that a little bit more than I will what the magicians think, because we look at it a little bit differently. But the people, the lay audience, they're the people that buy the tickets and come see the show, and they don't have the same knowledge that I do. So they look at it in a different way. And what we're really looking for is, can he entertain an audience? Not how amazing is he? That's always a nice, because there's guys that are incredibly amazing, but they're not entertaining. And people are coming out, they want the whole package. They want to be amazed, and they also want to be entertained.
So if the audience stays and they like what they see, and they're not walking out, they're actually, you're seeing the oohs and the ahs, that makes all the difference in the world, right?
Exactly. We're looking for people that have an entertaining show, that can do a show, because some people can get up for 5 minutes, they could be great. But our headline act usually is now doing about an hour show. Our show runs about 80 minutes without an intermission. So we're looking.
I think we lost him. He's on mute.
You just hit mute.
A 60-minute show, and we'll come on with an opening act. So it's sort of like a comedy club. There'll be the MC that welcomes everyone. Here's the ground rules. Here's our first act, and then here's our headline.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any particular things to know about getting to your theater, accessibility, parking, anything like that?
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things. One, we are accessible from SEPTA. So if you can get on the SEPTA train, if you can get the Jefferson Station or 30th Street Station, there's the West Trenton line in SEPTA. We are on the Philmont stop. So if you take the train from 30th Street, get off at Philmont Station, across the street is the theater. So we're easily accessible that way. We're not in a standard venue. I've had people that say, I go to work right up and down Pine Road. 2840 Pine Road in Huntington Valley is our address. But I've had people say, I work on Pine Road. I go up and back to work every day. I've never realized your theater there. So we're not really visible from the street. But GPS will take you there easily. We are 100% ADA compliant, so we are wheelchair accessible. Anyone that has any type of disability like that, we don't have, obviously, for accessibility for blind or deaf, but for ADA access, we are 100% accessible.
Awesome.
The other interesting too, since the coronavirus started, we stream our shows. So this is a really neat feature. So anybody in the world that has an internet connection will be able to go on and watch some of our shows. So some of the shows we stream live as they're happening, because the interesting thing about it, there's been a lot of Zoom shows going on with magic. But the problem with Zoom show, if I was doing a trick for you right now, you have no way of knowing if there's someone right over there that's going to hand me something, going to tell me something, going to assist me some way. So your enjoyment of watching a Zoom show, and I have watched many Zoom magic shows, but my enjoyment of watching them is not the same because I don't trust the medium. But
Hmm.
when we do our shows, we can pan our camera around and show you, look, there's 58 people watching the show tonight. This is happening live. No one is going to be able to aid this performer in any way, shape, or form. So we stream many of our shows live, and then some of the shows are then available for a replay.
What
So
kind of
we
cameras
tell
are
the
you
people, excuse
Sorry.
me?
What kind of cameras are you using? Are you using cell phone cameras, or are you just using like
No, 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 no. We are using, because of the nature of my theater, if you think about it this way, in a standard theater, you could put a camera at the back of the last row and shoot over the heads of the audience.
yeah?
My theater, you can't do that because the end of the back row, there's nothing there. There's a wall there. So we invested in HD remote control cameras.
Ah, okay, okay.
Four cameras. We have a whole switching studio, so we can show, here's a wide shot, here's a close-up shot. One camera is mounted above the table, so if he puts anything on the table, we can show that. So we spent a couple of bucks to do that, but again, so we always tell people, if you love the show you had tonight, grandma in Cincinnati wants to watch the show, she could get a code, and the replays, they're only $20 for a ticket, I believe, for the streaming show.
Oh, welcome to the 20th
Nice.
century. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and with the ability to stream, obviously, that does open up a few accessibility options. You can offer closed captioning and for the hearing impaired and stuff like that. So it's great to see that smaller venues are taking advantage of these technologies, which have kind of widened out availability because of the COVID pandemic. Um, I want to segue a little bit into talking about the COVID pandemic. There is still quite a bit of COVID denial going on out there. Um, uh, my family and I, we travel quite a lot. Like a lot of my work is based around travel. A lot of my wife's work is based around travel, and we enjoy travel. Beyond that, I think travel is important. It's important to broaden your horizons and, get experiences outside of your local area. And One of the main reasons I bring that up is we were in North Carolina this past weekend, near the Outer Banks, and we were on the Intercoastal Waterway, but um, it's interesting to have had that experience while traveling, because if you are in or around the Philadelphia area, New York, any major city, especially in the Northeast, any town in the Northeast, not so much in the suburbs. Sometimes I have noticed that the suburbs are starting to fall off of COVID protective things. Um, and but anywhere in especially cities in the Northeast, if you're in a populous area or a crowded area, you'll see nearly 100% mask compliance. People wearing masks to protect themselves and protect others. You'll see, most people having gotten their vaccinations. And in When we were in North Carolina, it's exactly the opposite. It's as if COVID never happened. And That's kind of disturbing to me. We had the opportunity to sample some unsolicited opinion um, with um, we were using a restroom. So using a restroom that's like a one at a time kind of thing. Just single person inside at a time. And while waiting for my wife to exit the restroom, a family came up. A family of four, very typical family of four, very obviously locals. Um, and the laws in North Carolina are such that the state has ceded control of mask mandates to uh, local government. So hyper local. You don't know whether or not there's a mask mandate unless you are standing in front of a business and it has a sign that says masks are required or not.
I think it's
Um, I'm
I
sorry.
look. This has all been politicized since 2020, and we all know why. It's basically because these are happening because it's politicized. The Republican Party went after the rural area. I'm not trying to stereotype anyone, and this is the Democratic Party too, because we didn't reach out to these people because these people are American people. But it's all due to misinformation, and it's been politicized by the Republican Party, particularly Donald Trump. You know, Trump is out of office, not really gone, but we've embraced politics like religion now, and I think a lot of people have been radicalized by a lot of the misinformation that's given out by the far right, which is not really right about them. That has a lot to do with it. They're not getting the
But
right.
it's not really a political matter. That's the confusing part to me and the dismaying part to me. It's not a political matter. So the opinion that was, unsolicited. I was sitting there with my mask on. I'm sitting there with a baby. And this family walks up, and they have no masks on, and they're talking about going into a restaurant that was next door. And they talked briefly with some patrons coming out and were informed that the town that we were in, Beaufort, North Carolina, has a mask mandate. You have to have a mask on when you're inside of any business, unless you're actively eating or drinking. It matches the federal mandate. Um, so but it's not really a political matter. The daughter expressed, I just wish it was a personal choice, and just to explain it again. I mean, I'm sure everybody who's watching this knows, and I'm sure you guys both know, but masks aren't a personal choice. You're not choosing for you. You're choosing for everyone else. In fact, COVID in general, you're kind of choosing for everyone else. If you choose not to get vaccinated, you're choosing to increase the risk of those that you interact with. And that's uh, maybe I don't know. I talked with a lot of people while I was down there, and there seems to be, a pretty good understanding of the risks involved. Um, but perhaps it's just what experience you have with risk management. Maybe that's what it is. I don't think it's political anymore. I don't think, you have Republican governors and you have Republican mayors. You have Republican, talking points that are pro mask use and pro vaccination.
We're seeing some
Uh,
cracks in the misinformation, which is good. But we're still doing that governor down in Florida who's like totally anti-mask, and he's being very vindictive about it. He's risking a lot of lives down there. I mean,
DeSantis?
yeah, DeSantis. I mean, now it's still we're seeing some cracks with that, but
Well, I mean, DeSantis is a particular case just because he gets his money from a company that produces a counter agent to the uh,
always
disease.
always comes down to this.
Yeah,
Well,
I
Florida
don't
is
know.
actually underreporting their deaths too. If you look at the numbers, other states with way less COVID have way more deaths. Florida, 3, 4. So I believe they're going to get, eventually that information is going to come out, and that's going to be another big scandal with Florida.
Well, you know what, and that's been out. There is a woman in Florida who was responsible for collecting the data. She was a government employee, and she was responsible for collecting the data, and she was sidelined by the DeSantis administration. And then since then, she's been repeatedly assaulted by the DeSantis administration uh, because she's had her computers impounded. She's been
Mhm.
accused of leaking private information and breaking other laws that she's not breaking. But yeah, so the DeSantis administration is doing everything it can to downplay the severity of the pandemic in Florida, um, and that's a problem in and of itself. But you know, this pandemic isn't going to go away just through wishes and the the good grace of time. So I don't understand what the resistance, what the hesitance. I can understand a bit of vaccine hesitance or vaccine resistance, but I, again, I don't think wearing a mask or a mask mandate it should be a matter of, I don't know. You know, it's the same thing. You know, a lot of people compare it to no shoes, no shirt, no service. Why is it such a big deal to wear a piece of clothing to protect yourself and others? Um, I'm just yeah,
Well,
I don't. Go ahead.
I was going to say when my kids were young, we did not vaccinate it. We homeschool. I lived. They were born in Colorado. I lived in Colorado at that time, and the attitude was a little bit different. And we had to make an exception when they went to school. You know that there was a reason why that they weren't vaccinated for most of the things, but that was my kids are they're older now, but they're vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. My wife was vaccinated. So it's a totally different situation because this is a different disease that we're dealing with as opposed to some of the things they wanted to. So here's my family was a family that we didn't vaccinate for that kind of thing, but for COVID, yes, we did. But it was definitely, in my opinion, a politicized thing, starting with Trump and his attitude toward it. He just and his followers just went way. Oh, you're not going to tell us what to do. That became the thing. It was just you're not telling us what to do. We're Americans. We could do. We have the right to do what we want to do, and you do.
That's not about freedom. This is about being. That's not selfishness. I mean, it's like following an orange golden cat off a cliff, but you're taking the rest of us with you. If it was just them, I wouldn't care. But we're talking about disease that spread. I saw some in the news on real news about people, pregnant women not getting vaccinated, and saw some horrible stories about that. It's this is real people that are dying. We're forgetting when this thing came out last year. We were seeing the death toll rise up, rise up, rise up. And it just seems like, well, what's wrong with people? Then they got politicized. When I was working at one of my jobs, we were getting this material for these. This is at the beginning of last year, 2020, and I thought these guys they were getting all this building material. I thought they were building a patio somewhere. And so no, we need extra storage for what? For the bodies. So the bodies we work in a funeral home. The bodies are piling up. So why? Because the virus. And this is we're talking about they were in a funeral home in Philadelphia, 2020, and the bodies were piling up. It's not a joke. And people are quickly forgetting the bodies were being piled up behind hospitals out in New York when New York was the epicenter. So this is not it's just how quickly we forget about these images. Now it's just yesterday. Now it's kind of like I'm not when it comes to the COVID stuff. It's not about it's not about politics. It's about saving lives. But now we got to worry about children going to school. It's I'm just ranting right now, but I think it's about misinformation. How this connect with the internet and where we're going with the Facebook thing. a lot of the things that were being separated on, it was back to line misinformation putting online. A lot of people like internet is Facebook, but social media stuff like hatred's getting worse. This is part of it. Why do you think they threw Trump off Twitter? We had our Capitol attacked this year, that insurrection. Do not tell me that social media and misinformation websites had nothing to do with it. Well, this is also going to be applied to what's going on with COVID. I mean, you're always saying to myself, I saw this on a website. I believe this, I believe that, a lot of misinformation out there. And there's a lot of people trying to make money off of it.
Well, I do agree that there's a lot of misinformation out there. That a lot of it has to do with making money. We've covered grifters and people who are out here being predatory and making money several times on this show. With along that line of thought, the Opossum Press is a anti-fascist news organization, independent news organization, and they published a report recently that they were talking about how there is a traveling group of folks protesting, I'll put in quotes, mask mandates at various schools in Knoxville, in the Knoxville school system. They have groups of these traveling, so-called self-called patriots, literally yelling, getting in the face of and yelling at little children as young as 7, trying to walk into school. And calling them sheep and obstructing the entrances so that these children can't get into the school.
They're the American Taliban. That's the American. That's who they are. The American Taliban.
I mean, it's cute to call them the American Taliban, but we have to acknowledge that these people think that they are doing the right thing in some sort of way. I don't. How do we counter this? This situation where there are people who think, for whatever reason, they're doing the right thing. And they're just not. They're literally. I mean, this is the pictures, the video. It reminds me of the integration fight. About school. In southern school districts, when schools became integrated. And that happened 5 years before I was born. We're not talking about ancient history here. How do we have this every 40 years, groups of people jumping up and down and acting like all change is bad? Where do we get rid of this I don't know, this drive to keep things exactly as they were, or go back to an idealized time in history that doesn't actually exist?
It's not going back. The division that's going on in America right now is only going to get worse. People are digging in. We have friends of ours that are Trump supporters that we don't see hardly ever anymore because the divide, it used to be, I'm a little older than you guys, so I remember the day when I had friends that were Republicans. I was a Democrat or an independent, and it was totally okay. We could talk politics, not a problem. That does not exist today. Now, relationships, friendships are being ended and terminated. We can't get together with them. We can't see these people. And I believe it's only going to get worse because both sides feel they're right. Both sides are digging in. And what you have now is the social media and regular media channels that you really didn't have back then 40 years ago, fanning the flames. There was no Fox News 40 years ago. It didn't exist.
Versus them mentality in this country. I think we're all guilty of it. I mean, I'm a Democrat, but I don't want to see people dead because Republican. I mean, it's just, I'd rather convince them otherwise. It's us personally. We don't debate anymore. And yeah, this does goes back to India where we had these companies that are banning place for money. I mean, it's ironic. We need Facebook. I don't know, we need Instagram stuff, but we need Facebook because it does help us with our companies. It does help us with it connect, but you need some serious regulation going on. When you got people online fanning the flames, when you got kids thinking about killing themselves because of Instagram, I mean, something has to be regulated. We're losing humanity. Now, yeah, I'm not saying technology is all bad, but we got to regulate ethics of humanity in there. But it's just like, yeah, we have them fanning the flames. We have this us versus them mentality now.
But that's the problem. Who's doing the regulating? Is it going to be the Democrats that we three feel are the ones that put the rules in, or is it going to be the Trump people doing the regulating? Then it would be a total other world. That's the problem. No, we said, yeah, it needs to be changed, but is it going to change for our way and then we win, or is it going to be changed their way? So that's the problem right there. It can't be. How are you going to even regulate it when there's
what this always what the Republican Party is really good at, and what drives me absolutely insane about this is that it isn't, at the end of the day, it isn't a zero-sum game. Like, it isn't okay, Democrats put in regulations and we win, or Republicans put in regulations and they win. There is a world in which these regulations are beneficial to everyone, and so that like WhatsApp doesn't go down and take out the communication for 3/4 of the world, or that a spate of teens and tweens, through a decision made by the interactive experts at Instagram, doesn't cause these teens and tweens to kill themselves because they have negative body image, and there's no, and taking that decision process out of the hands of people who are just concerned about the bottom line versus people who are concerned about the whole entire social structure. I don't know how we build that back in. It used to be, there's this quite old article now, came out about 10-15 years ago, but there was and slash still is a school, and by school I mean a group of thought, in business school, a school of business that the developed in the 80s and 90s, and the thought is that the business is ultimately only responsible to the people who are making money from it. So whether that be shareholders or ownership, it's only responsible to the bottom line, to make money. And that school of thought never used to be the actual way that business was taught. Business, there's school of thought in older business models that that the business is also responsible to the consumer, and that ultimately you have to be good to your consumer so that your consumer will not only come back to you and buy more from you, but also so that your consumer can buy more from you. And then also schools of thought that your business is responsible to your employees. So, like obviously I'm not influential enough to make this a reality, but how do we get back to the point where business is taught in the perspective where it is an element of society, where it is a part of the social construct again? Where do we get rid of this? How do we get rid of this the bottom line is what we need to look at. And all three of us are business owners, so you know, I don't know. I mean, personally, I try to be good to my employees and try to be good to my clients. And I think of those things more important than the bottom line. But I'm a weird business owner. I never went to business school, and apparently I would fail at business school because that's how I think. Um, I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. You know, is it just
I
getting
think
more?
I
Go
think
ahead.
if we're gonna regulate them, I mean the government's it comes out with what we elect. I don't know if the elections still matter. I still think they do, but I think there's got to be a way to regulate this thing and still make a profit, but keep that humanity in where okay, we're not having these companies. I mean, we're having these companies. We want people to hate each other so we can make more money. That's basically where Facebook is at right now. And I use Facebook, but it's like then this since it is a tool, and now we're all kind of like, I mean, we're all dependent on it. We need this things need to be regulated because I'm working with the Instagram thing. So I'm here because with kids, this has got to be regulated real quick because we got kids practically killing themselves because I'm not pretty enough, I'm not popular enough. I mean, if I'm talking the humanity aspect of it, when you have children being bullied, like I was bullied when I was a kid, and we didn't. Don't tell me that if we had Instagram and Facebook, we wouldn't be doing the same thing. We probably would. We probably did more worse. But bullying is it's a cowardly form that kids rarely survive. There is a now, even though the school shootings happened at least a decade before Facebook got started, but a few years before Facebook. But it's just like when you add internet to it now, it's getting more cowardly. Oh yeah, let's blame the media and all. But there is something different. When we were kids, yeah, we watched too much television, but we didn't watch. But we weren't able to bully people through the television sets. But now we get kids and tools like this is everybody's online to attack someone online, and the text are boom. You know, people are even more cowardly. They see mean quotes and they can do it without saying it to your face. They won't say it to your face. They'll hide behind a screen name or whatever. So we've seen the beginning of this in the 2000s. Now they do 2010s. Now we're going. Now it's 2021. It seems to me that people are making money. These companies are making money off of hate and off discourse. I think, and I applaud that woman who's coming forward and like, hey, putting Facebook on notice. So I think it's a dust to demand this regulation, especially when it comes to our children. I'm all for technology, but we have to have that hit. So we need some human regulation here. So
Well, I don't think that when the cell phone really came out and then the web, the connection, they didn't realize this was going to happen. Some people did. There's some people, social scientists, that looked at this and could see that this is going to be the end result. But
yeah,
now the genie's out of the bottle.
yeah,
There's no way to put it back in. How are you going to control it? You can't. The internet is, you have the website, you click it, boom, you can go there, and it doesn't go through any toll roads. There's no one watching, so I don't understand how they're going to try to rein this back in again. I don't believe they can. Maybe they can try to, pass a rule or do this, but how do you do that? A man's out in the middle of the forest, no one can see what he's doing. He can do whatever he wants. That's what's going on with the internet.
at some point we'll all have to find a way. I mean, I don't want to say everything begins at home. I mean, if I had kids that would drive me, I wouldn't want to. I would take Instagram away from her. But then again, the pressure to be on there, to belong to something, to be a part of something. We all want that. Even as adults, we want that. But when it's a way of joining, you want to be part of a group, and then be part, because no one wants to be alone. We all, now independent we are, we don't want to be alone about that. But there's a danger. And so in order to be alone, you want to be a part of something, you got to attack someone. It goes back when you were in high school. Like, say there's this one kid that no one likes, right? And the other kid, may have a beef with that kid, and they'll start bullying. But the other kids join in because they want to be part of something. The best way to do that is bully this person. That way you won't get bullied and you'll be a part of something. Now, that's not happening every kid. That does happen. Now we got the social media, and no one saw this happening. I mean, there's just good and a pro and a bad about it, but it just said, we see what we got. I remember like a few years ago, at Sheldon High School, a brawl broke out between girls because somebody was bad mouthing somebody through Facebook and Instagram. I don't know, either one on the internet, and it broke out into the schools. And this is Cheltenham High School in the suburb of Philly. And I was surprised it's happening at that school. That was supposed to be a pristine school and all that, public school. But the fight broke out. Teacher got knocked out, and some guy expelled and let out in handcuffs. Now it's now that was a few years ago, but I thought about that situation. It's like, is that how powerful internet is? I mean, we always had that meanness of bullying going to school, but now we got internet. It's like the kids become more college because hide behind this computer screen. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe dumping one generation. Our generation was better because we all do that with each generation. Okay, you people who know what you're talking about. You young kids aren't expert. Blah 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 blah. Every generation does that, but some things change. But things have gotten a lot worse. I do think we can find a way to regulate. More people talk about it. The laws have to catch up with the technology. That's the beginning. The laws have to step up with the technology. I applaud this when we come to talk about Facebook.
Well, yeah, it's difficult for laws to catch up with technology. It takes a lot of time and experience to become a politician, and technology changes at a pace that doesn't allow for laws to catch up with it. You have people who literally build their business models on quote unquote disrupting the way things are. Uber claims to that, Lyft claims to that, DoorDash, other delivery services. These quote disruptors are the hot thing in technology, and that they've always been the hot thing in technology.
DoorDash. COVID is probably the best thing that ever happened to DoorDash. Probably. I missed actually going into like a Burger King, getting a breakfast. I was doing my wash, and while I was in the wash, I was going to go to Burger King and get me a breakfast sandwich. It was, I can't do that because they're closed. It's a COVID thing, even though we have a vaccine, because they all do drive-through now.
Mm-hmm. So, one last topic I wanted to bring up, it's 5 up, 6 up, and I just wanted to bring up one last topic before we get done for the day. There's been a lot of reporting around the debt ceiling crisis and the Build Back Better bill and other things that the Biden administration is trying to get done right now. And one thing that is starting to get picked up in opinion pieces is the fact that we don't actually talk about, and this goes back to some of the things that you were saying, Kent. We don't actually talk about the actual contents of what we're trying to pass as laws anymore. We just talk about what the expense is and what the talking points are that are brought up by the opposition. And that's whether it's opposition from the Democratic Party to a Republican bill or opposition from the Republican Party to a Democratic bill. Obviously, the opposition right now is mostly Republican because Democrats do technically have control over 3 branches of government. Well, two branches of government. The courts are mostly Republican nominated right now. And so we have the Build Back Better bill, and all the reporting about it is, this is good or this is bad because it costs $3 billion. Or $3 trillion, excuse me, $3 trillion. And what we don't talk about, and what's frustrating that we don't talk about it, is that there are a lot of contents to this bill. There are this bill attempts to rebuild the infrastructure of the United States, and in addition to rebuilding the existing infrastructure, it intends to do what you just said, Kent, which is help laws catch up with technology by reclassifying a lot of the things that we take for granted as infrastructure. internet access, food access, housing access. It intends to modernize education, that kind of thing. And so that's where a lot of the expense comes from. And we're not talking about, even I listened to a report this morning where they had on a senator, a Republican senator who is opposed to the bill, and a Republican mayor who actually is the mayor of a town where Biden just came and gave a speech about the bill, and who is in support of the bill. And even though the reporter asked what specifically the Republican senator didn't like about the bill, she deflected that question and went back to her talking points instantaneously about it just being too expensive. That there are things in this that are not infrastructure. Well, I mean, anytime you're trying to do something new, obviously, you're going to have to reclassify things.
I think that's
So, go
sorry.
ahead.
I think we're back to them saying no for the sake of saying no. I think there's so much tribalism that's going on in our government. It's to say no for the sake of saying no. Nobody wants to be all the Republicans are the bad guys, but in fact they are the bad guys. I think at least this current party is, because seeing they're still following. We have a problem with saying no for the sake of saying no. So it's just way back when Obama was president and they were following McDonald. They said we want to make them. They're all focused on making him a one-term president. So they were just saying no for the sake of no, because they know we just want to get him out because we want to win. Even though what some of the stuff he was saying would help the country. So that's a problem we have here. I mean, in this case, is that there's so much tribalism that nothing is getting done. No, it's like, again, and maybe Democrats are in a sense are responsible for it as well. At a lesser extent, it's like party over country. They're the bad guys. You're putting no, they're the bad. You don't support them. No, I think with the Republican Party right now, I think it mostly goes on their part because they were following the past 4 years, and none of them denounced Trump after the insurrection. A lot of them, they didn't even want to shake the hands of the Capitol Police who defended their lives after the attack when we had the sessions on all those cops. None of McDonald didn't want to meet with any of them. That just tells them right there, because they know that most of their followers are now still following the orange cap, and they don't want to lose their jobs because they love once given being congressman. You can never be fired. You never have to retire. You do that job till you're 90, and not to be the smartest person won't be the congressman or congresswoman. And that's what's scary about this. The more I learn about this, I think we needed some of these congressmen and congresswomen are so out of touch with what's going on. But we got the sense of tribalism. Yeah, I'm going to blame most of the Republican Party on this because, action. I mean, I think these guys people are so bad. Actually, I miss George W. Bush. I may agree with George W. did, but at least George W. did care about this country. He may have been misguided, but at least he cared about this country. But then, not to say the Democrats are one of the hunters, right? On our side, we have the problem with the woke cults. I know that we are cults too. We have the woke cult. We have some progressive. No, we're looking for this amoral, asexual, liberal God to lead us, and it's just no, we're not. We don't want to compromise either. We got to we have to get rid of this tribalism that's out of both parties. Now, it's not going to be easy, but this is where we are right now. That's why everybody's frustrated, and the ones who were you and me and you and Danny and the rest of us, we're all suffering for it.
Yeah. Well, all right. It's 11 a.m. 11:01. I want to say thank you, Kent, for your opinions this morning. I'm gonna bring it up just to me and Danny for a sec. Danny, do you have any final thoughts? Anything to take us out? Anything about your theater that you want to promote?
We have a show this weekend with Mio, an incredible magician mind reader from Florida. He's on the Friday show sold out, but we still have tickets left for his Saturday afternoon show and Saturday show. We're smokeandmirrorstheater.com. Go to my website. We have great shows. They're non-political. Just come sit in the theater. You can laugh, smile, and be amazed. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you to both of my guests. Really appreciate you being here today. Thank you to all of my viewers. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you like what you see, join us again next Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Every Wednesday morning, we have another coffee break chat. We try and cover news, events, and something from the arts here in Philadelphia or the immediate surrounds. And consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/LightThiefProductions, and subscribe to us on whatever platform you're watching us on. Feel free to subscribe to us on multiple platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and we are on Facebook. We're also on Mob Crush and Twitch, but those are less viewed. But please, if you like it, subscribe to it. You'll get a notification every time we go live. And you can tune in and see news and opinion pieces, hear what's going on in the entertainment industry, and we will talk about other important stuff next week as well. So subscribe, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and tune in next week, and we'll have another show for you. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.